Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to episode 7 of Slayhouse Review.
Welcome.
Now,
You're in for a treat.
we'll see how this episode is going to go because we have done quite literally little to no preparation at all. At least I've done much less preparation than I usually do, in the sense that I read this story once and maybe like read a couple Wikipedia articles and maybe got an idea of what I wanted to talk about, only because the story itself. So this week we're discussing the story. What is it even called? We're Not That Different After All?
I think so.
We're discussing the story We're Not That Different After All by what I found out to be prominent American humorist, finger quote humorist.
Conceived.
Yeah, well, not that I'm saying this he's not funny or not like a humorous writer, but just that this is a title that is attached to writers who write a certain thing.
Exactly.
And this story very much is that certain thing. Simon Rich is the guy's name, which when I opened up the story this week and saw what it was, I was like, in the back of my mind, I was like, that name does sound familiar. Even before reading it, I was like, I feel like this is somebody. But then when I did research, I actually have no clue who this was. But then reading the story, I was like, okay, this definitely is somebody, or else this would not have been in the New Yorker. I was just like, this is not a New Yorker story. I mean, Deborah Treisman, as I was reading this, I noticed, you have like spicy ramen juice all over your white Raycon headphones.
So sorry.
I don't know how that happened. Did I do that?
No, it's probably fine. I'll wipe it off later. Okay, Slay.
It's white. It's gonna stain so bad.
Oh well.
Whatever, girl.
Anyway.
And so I opened up this story and I began reading, and I was like, I feel like Deborah Treisman of the New Yorker fiction department, editor-in-chief, is like listening to the pod because she's kind of giving us. She wanted to switch it up for us this week.
She did. She heard our sort of like comments, feedback about like the sort of Melba toast, we're not going anywhere, kind of like middle-aged thing, and then she was like, let's do superheroes.
She said, okay, well, you know what, girls, I'm gonna switch it up for you real quick.
I'm gonna get a farce. Farcical.
Exactly. So I mean, I feel I'll just right off the bat. Oh, the other thing, I do have spicy ramen. I bought 2 of them last week, intending for both of us to do it.
But I'm a pussy.
Yeah, so and I think it's just fun. I might do this for every single episode now. Just come here with a bulldog 2 times ramen. I will say, I mean, I did like it. I personally liked the story.
I really liked the story.
Knocked out by it because, I mean, and this is again what we'll get into.
Life.
This is very typical writing of like humorist, like American writers that get that title put on to them by the publishing machine. Okay, as I take my first bites, why don't you hop into the plot? I mean, you don't really gotta. I feel like we don't really even have to talk about this story that much.
Yeah, and let me just give like kind of a brief overview. I'll start off by saying too that I actually really enjoyed this.
Mm-hmm.
You say, oh, I didn't do any research, but you read the Wikipedia, etc. Mm-hmm. I did, way less than that. Like I just approached this completely blind, and I saw the cover art, and I was like, oh, we're in for a. We're in for a superhero story. Anyway, here's the premise. So we've got a guy, Death Skull, right?
Yeah.
Let me open the story.
I believe it's Death Skull.
We're immediately introduced to a scene that, like, quite frankly, could have been out of like a genre, like community fiction workshop, which I actually do have a particular taste for, like genre fiction, particularly like. Fun. I mean, I'm just interested to see what people are into. Would I write superhero stuff? No. Would I read it? Like certainly in this format, like, because I think it adds something fresh to a pretty Marvel pilled dead genre. So anyway, this is farcical. We've got Death Skull, who's our protagonist here. It's written in third person, from very close point of view of this character, Death Skull. His arch nemesis is Ultraman, who is essentially the good guy. Death Skull, we're told, is like sort of our traditional sort of anti-hero, or not anti-hero, he's kind of a villain. But anyway, we are then introduced to them sort of, having a little bit of a showdown, like very traditional, like superhero showdown.
Yeah.
Then Death Skull, kind of goes home to his wife, Jackie, who has actually a book club of friends over watching The Bachelor. Turns out Death Skull is indeed kind of just a normal guy. And we learn pretty quickly that he's a normal guy who is a little bit lonely. He can't really, doesn't seem to relate to his wife. They don't actually sleep in the same bed. She's always watching The Bachelor, has like stuff going on, friends, and that kind of thing. And Deskel has no friends. So Deskel then decides to go to a speed dating Friends for Men speed dating event where he meets a man named Doug who works for a telephone company. Doug is a big fan of Rick and Morty. They sort of, at first Deskel's like, this is so lame. Then suddenly they're bonding over Rick and Morty. And then who should show up but Ultraman, the superhero, and try to save Doug. He's like, oh, hey, by the way, is Deskel bothering you? Shows up at the speed dating event. Let me save you, Doug, from Deskel. And, superhero swoops away, Ultraman swoops away Doug. Deskel's sad. So what he decides to do is to break onto the airwaves of the local TV, sort of like, commandeer the airwaves, and he makes an announcement basically apologizing to Doug, and would Doug like to come over to his house to watch Rick and Morty?
Yes, because Ultraman saves Doug because Deskel is too embarrassed to admit to Ultraman when he shows up at the male friendship speed dating event that he actually is there to find male friendship.
Right.
So he says like, oh yeah, I'm here to befriend these desperate males and then rob them. And then Doug looks like shattered by that, and Deskel feels like really bad about it.
Right. Deskel's like, okay, I actually was here to make friends, but it'll ruin my vibe, my branding, my street cred. To admit that I'm, a sad, lonely male guy who wants male friends. So instead, he's just like, yeah, you're right. Haha, joke's on you. Oh, I see a tear or two.
I mean, I'm sweating.
You're slaying, bestie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of
absolutely
annihilating
slaying.
this.
But it's and that's pretty much the plot. So at the end, Doug says, okay, I'm down, shows up, they watch Rick and Morty, right, and it's good.
And so this does a couple of classic, like, American humor fiction moves. One that always works without film is taking a ridiculous, kind of absurd premise, in this case, like, following the life of a supervillain, and then humanizing it in a very banal way.
Yes, exactly.
Making it millennial pilled, giving it the day-to-day life, and then from there, humor sprouts. And I think it worked successfully in this piece. I think he did it. I know, I'm like,
I see it. Just
so much fluid just coming out all over my face.
So much fluid. Finish that thought, though. It was good.
Yeah. And so this is kind of like, I wish I could come up with examples, but this is...
I can.
You can?
I can. I can comp this. It is, in a lot of ways, George Saunders technique that we see a lot, where you take like a really, really highly idiosyncratic like voice and like then render it through like, oh, it's actually just the way this person thinks about the world. So you get that like crossover of real world, kind of like modern, banal, like day to day, but mixed with like a highly idiosyncratic, like crazy kind of voice. Like there's a story that he has where it's like actually about like a kid. This is called 10th of December, I think is one of his most famous ones. But like you start off and you're reading and the kid is like, I am like the conqueror of like worlds or whatever. And so you think you're reading a fantasy story, and then it turns out, oh, we're actually just getting a really closely rendered consciousness basically of this like person who is into these kinds of things. That's not exactly what's happening here, because it, very much sells itself on the fact that this is reality. Like this guy is a sort of cryptid, like bone skeleton man. Live walking.
He is like doing actual like super villain diamond heist.
But the effect is the same, which is like it feels familiar and real. It's like psychological adherence to psychological realism.
Yes.
Like this is real life.
But because it's a novel,
it's rich
setup. It is engaging and fun and novel.
Which, like, what do you overall feel about that technique?
I mean, I think it works. When you do it right, it works. And I think it's like kind of a fail-safe way to like make someone laugh and to like work your way through like a short story. It gives you the framework for like more than enough material to like jam pack into a story. And if you're good at what you do, it'll be funny, it'll work. I think it's, tried and true.
Yeah.
The other thing is the dialogue is where a lot of the this is hitting me harder than last week, I think.
Slayer
is where a lot of the humor lives. and again with like American like humorous fiction, it'll be very, it's very dry. It's very like, how can I say this? All right, whew, I'm like sweating.
You got it,
Where they
bestie.
say exactly the thing that is funny. Like it's like writing like for a sitcom,
Right.
rather than like like a 3-camera sitcom. Like writing for, or no, that's not exactly right. It's like sitcom writing. It's like sketch comedy writing, the dialogue, where it's like the people are saying things for it to be funny, not like
Yes.
this is a situation that happens to be funny. The dialogue is where a lot of the humor lies. And I thought throughout this, some of it seemed like really like, okay, this is like comedy writing. Like this is writing by a comedy writer. And some of
Right.
it, but most of it, I feel like worked.
Right. Let me
Like the Rick and Morty stuff and the singles on the men's friendship speed dating, where he said like, yeah, it seems like everybody's talking about Rick and Morty. And then he was like, yeah, it's a great, like, I thought that was funny. That was good dialogue writing. And
right. Like for example, when he's like cackling to himself, in the very like supervillain way, his wife texts him, "Please stop cackling." Jackie texted him from the next room, "I'm trying to sleep. I have a plan to make a friend," he texted back. So it's very deadpan in that it's like, the ridiculousness. We can see as the reader the ridiculousness of the situation come through the dialogue, which is, as you say, very much where a lot of humor lives. And I do think that was very successfully done. The Rick and Morty, like this is a winking piece. It like the way that it like leans into some of these like tropes of like, dudes just wanting to find another dude to watch Rick and Morty with. But because it's against the backdrop of such a ridiculous premise, and the fact that, for example, the wife is like always watching The Bachelor or like whatever.
Yeah.
But it leans into it in that way. However, the premise is so ridiculous that it doesn't feel tired. It does feel like it's bringing something
and
fresh.
I do think it taps into just like an archetype that I really like from millennial, I guess. And I guess this could be qualified as, at the end of the day, domestic fiction, because there is like a domestic dynamic going on here. I love that like one partner is like well adjusted, on their feet, has their life together, and one partner's like a total loser, but they've been together for a long time.
Right.
Love that dynamic. I think it worked great here. But again, I feel like I don't really necessarily have anything interesting to say about this story, because I think it works, and it's not like I'm like, and I enjoyed reading it.
Right.
But it's just like,
I think the interesting thing for me is like I did also very much enjoy reading this. It was a great experience, great reading experience, entertaining. I think sometimes absurdist fiction like this can both like entertain me, but also not necessarily. Sometimes it can really provoke like very deep, like sort of emotional response from me. But other times it really just sticks in the upper zone of like, a little bit below surface kind of content. But it's not like we're engaging with like, I don't know, the reality of mortality or something, in a way. I mean, but that's, it's just couched so much in the mundane that we don't, I think, ultimately get anywhere that interesting emotionally, except for perhaps this idea that like a lot of people can't make friends, which I think is totally real. I mean, I feel that. I feel like I can't make any friends except you.
Yeah, me too.
So
but
like,
I feel like we can't make friends not because, well, I guess the story does kind of like, I just feel like we can't make friends because we're like generally awful.
Right.
It's not that we have any complex about like loneliness or vulnerability. And
yeah. I mean,
like,
I guess we do like deep down then, if that's like
whatever.
the thing, but like that's like, not for, that's like none of my business,
Yeah, exactly. So would you have sex with him, Simon Rich?
Let's see. I look at him.
I would not have sex with him.
Let me see. Wait,
the thing that like startles me
him?
is he's like 40 something year. He's 39, turning 40
I feel like
this
I would like
year.
to hang out with him, but I don't think I would have sex with him. I feel like it just wouldn't.
He's like, one of these comedy writer eunuchs, and there are so many archetypal like American men that are like this, at least that have been through like the pipeline of comedy and comedy writing. So
yeah. Oh yeah. Let's look at pictures.
I mean, I opened up his Wikipedia page because I was like, he has to be somebody, and sure enough, I mean, he's done it all.
Oh, here I
You
am
know,
just now getting to his Wikipedia. Okay,
his
continue.
dad, I guess, is an influential, like long published, established, like liberal cultural critic.
Oh, he went to
He went to
Harvard.
Harvard. He was the head writer of the Harvard Lampoon and then worked at SNL.
Oh, of
His mom was
course.
like the lead fiction editor of one of the big five publishing houses. It's like,
Oh, he's friends with Seth Rogen,
yeah,
Judd
yeah,
Apatow.
you know, he really had all the odds stacked in his favor. And I do think it's
Yeah.
funny because it's like this type of guy and this type of humor really has been like what like the concept of American humor has revolved
Yes.
around for like 20 years now. It's
At
like
least
this
American, like,
Jew
low
white
highbrow
guy. Yeah, like
humor.
respectable comedy that like
Thoughtful comedy.
critics and respected publications will give a shout out and
Oh,
tell
he
you
was
to check out.
classmates with Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, classmates with Mark Zuckerberg. The like private school he went to as a child has its own Wikipedia page. It's like
Slay. Yeah. No, that's exactly it. It's like the thing is, like, we've seen this iteration, and like it's a lot of, I mean, even like anyone who's Chuck Palahniuk, like him, George Saunders, like all these American, writers of the last, let's say, like 30 years who do this kind of, it's almost borderline genre fiction at this point.
it is almost borderline
And I'm not
genre
talking
fiction.
about anything superhero related. I'm talking about the
Just like the
genre of
tropes and
humorous
yeah.
writing. I mean, because I do think it stems back to from like, Vonnegut in like the mid-century, like these mid-century absurdists, and the iteration
thing
you have
that
today
I
is
was
like
just
a palatable New Yorker publishable if
thinking
you have
about-
connections.
Yeah, number one, I
Nice.
mean, immediately as I was reading this, I was like, okay, there's no way the New Yorker would ever run this if this guy wasn't who he is.
Right.
And it's like, the thing that was kind of sticking with me is like, I just hate how like this is the only appropriate and respectable way to be like a funny writer in
That's a great point.
2024. Like if me and you, and like when I write,
That's a
I would
great
say the
point.
things I write are like always humorous. Like before anything, like being
Right.
funny is what I prioritize in all of my writing. But if I were to say get a book published, I don't think it would be marketed as comedy. It would have
Right.
been marketed and seen as like burgeoning queer fiction, you know?
Right.
Because like, if you can't be like funny and tickle the brain in this sort of like NPR listener sort of way,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
frowned upon. And I think just like, I don't know. It's like, all this stuff works. It works. It works
So,
fine.
no, go
But
ahead.
it's just like if this guy, did not go to private
Harvard.
school, did not have like two very well connected parents, was not rubbing shoulders with all the right people, was not like the editor in chief of the fucking Harvard Lampoon and working on SNL. Like at the end of the day, like, is any of this like really really is it like
groundbreaking? Does it push the form anywhere interesting?
Is it like,
No.
I mean, it truly is. And I guess, the more I'm talking about this, I mean, I guess Deborah Treisman really did try to pull a fast one on me, because when I think about this for more than 2 minutes, I'm like, well, actually, this is quite the New Yorker type of story, because really, I'm going to take a hit like of my vape and move on with my life.
And
not really think about it.
I mean, I think you're onto something really interesting about like the fact that like, the stuff that we write like is outside of the sort of scope of like humor writing is to be considered, or like the gold standard.
Like there's like a respectability that I think all of this kind of work kind of circles around in order to be considered like, good humor that should be celebrated, that give us awards.
But I do think that is like actually it's like very gendered, not to always go here, but
it is.
What I mean by that is that this sort of like humorous story trope is very white male, white straight male, and it's like the way that it manifests all the time in terms of the content, right? Like if we're going to do this same sort of like technique, which is like to have something kind of absurdist and to have it exist within a psychological, like realist, landscape, the content itself then does become important, right? Like it's about like, what is the story like actually about then, or like what satirical mechanism are you using? But what I never see, and what always drives me crazy, is I never see anything really like, like pussy pilled, like anything written from this like crazy kind of like really feminine perspective, like, which is what I would
Or at
love
least
to see
something
with
that's,
one of
and
these.
I mean, like, every week as we talk about these stories, I'm always just like craving something just a little bit subversive,
Something
just a little
different.
bit taboo. And
Right.
that's the thing that's so weird about this is, yes, this guy comes in with a novel premise. Like, yeah, it's a story about like the, day-to-day life and like sort of everyday emotions of like a literal cartoon supervillain.
Right.
But, beyond that, it's like this is a very typical story about
Because
male friendship, male
right.
loneliness, and also I think like millennial relationships,
Right.
long-term relationships. And I guess that's part of the charm of this story, what makes it kind of
Familiar.
work as a comedy story. But beyond, taking a hit of your vape and moving on with your day, it's like, I don't know, there's nothing that really sticks to your
It's
ribs here.
because
I wouldn't pick up the story collection.
right.
I
And
wouldn't pick up the story
it's
collection.
because I actually would be interested to see if there's anything else in there, but like I feel like I would get it at a little free library or something.
Yes.
But it's just that it falls into tropes both in the way it does the thing that we've seen done, the magic trick, right? We've seen it done so many times that it sort of loses a little bit of its appeal once you realize what's going on. And on the opposite side of that, the superhero tropes, it fulfills them. And I think there is an opportunity. It obviously does break from the tropes at times, but the actual superhero back and forth is giving Incredibles, the movie.
Yeah.
When I think there is a really ripe opportunity to do something batshit, like all of a sudden have the villain like actually be able to, he's like actually got a concealed carry or something, like something that is like different from the actual like source material kind of like tropes that you're pulling from, because I think that's a really rich opportunity to do something unique, something that would stick to your ribs.
And I do kind of feel like a little bit bad saying this, because I do think overall, like, it's a great story.
No, and I think,
and he seems like a cute
he
guy.
He seems like a fun dude. Like, I actually think,
and I'm
I
like,
really
and then when I'm
vibe with
talking
him.
about this, I'm like thinking, like, I wonder if he like wrote this like saying like, okay, I gotta have something that I can like run in the New Yorker. And I'm wondering if he has like anything in his like catalog that's really more like for him. Because I mean, at the end of the day, this guy
probably does.
I mean, and that's the other thing about that I think separates comedy writing, and I think again, comedy writing and then American like humorous, like humor literature are also two distinct things. Like comedy writing for things like SNL and for TV, compared to like contemporary like funny fiction, are two different things. And so this guy does work in comedy writing. He has a bunch of TV shows, I guess, and he worked on SNL. So I'm sure he does approach writing these stories from a lens of like, okay, well, this will be maybe for this audience, and this will be where I can try this.
Right.
So,
which is, I mean, and honestly, good for him, because I think the funniest thing ever too would be to be like, what can I couch into a story that the New Yorker will publish? Like, what absurd
how can I
thing
game
can I
the
make
system?
them?
But then
it's
I
the
kind
same
of
thing
feel
as
like
the workshop experience, what can I make my classmates have to sit with and like read and grapple with and say, thoughtful comments about for the next hour.
But then I have to think to myself, like, I'm just kind of giving this guy more credit than he deserves, because his Wikipedia page, he like, I don't know, looks sort of like a trans man, and he's holding like what looks like to be a Coke Zero in his hand, and is like wearing incredibly skinny jeans.
Very 2009.
Yeah, very 2009. Because like, I don't know, I feel like me and you and just really any girl with a proclivity for cock and balls, I feel like we are ever generous with these sort of like intellectual, funny, self-effacing, like Jewy guys,
Yeah,
and like maybe he is just a really corny millennial with money.
Which I mean, like, slay.
And I mean, I guess like you can't, and I mean, we always complain about people we know who have parents with money who aren't like using that money to do something really cunty. And I would say, I mean, I think he has used his money to do something cunt as a straight man. I mean,
yeah,
he's like
absolutely. I mean, he's living probably every 12-year-old boy's like absolute dream.
And
life.
so he was able to use his parents' like money and connections to, I don't know, serve cunt in a straight sort of way.
In a straight white male way.
More power to you, Simon Rich. I googled literally like Simon Rich asshole, Simon Rich like
anything.
Like like I was trying to find like some sort of anecdote on Reddit or something about him being a piece of shit, or like people like denigrating him in some way, but I really couldn't find it seems like nobody talks about him at all, which kind of checks out, because like I feel like when I saw his name, I kind of like felt like I should know who he was, but didn't. And then like looking at his Wikipedia page, like he's very accomplished, but I haven't
he wrote for SNL.
Yeah, I haven't heard of any of the things that he's ever done. Anyways, okay. The other thing I wanted to bring up, because I think it just like really goes well with this discussion of like how like what is considered like decorated humor writing in America never really puts its pussy into it the way
Right.
that we think it should. And I think people who put their pussy into it then get sort of pigeonholed into not being like comedy writers who are smart and funny
Right.
and being intentionally funny, but like, oh, like deranged, like, you know, upcoming literary talents who are off the rails and wild.
Right.
You know, it's not that
Right.
we're intellectual and actually know what we're doing. It's just how, you know, we're crazy.
Oh
You know,
wow, so crazy! Look at all the pyrotechnics.
whereas we're Simon Rich and people like him get away with, you know, being considered intellectual and like
Absolutely, because
and having like construction, like an intentionality behind their work because it's appropriate.
Right.
It's palatable. Anyways, and so what I wanted to say is what I wanted to bring up is one of his story collections was awarded this Thurber Prize for American Humor, and I want to open it and I want to read. Here, let's both take
Okay.
a look at this
I can't see
Wikipedia.
because you're.
Yeah, my screen. Can you read this one?
Mhm.
So, I mean, let's see the names. Do you recognize for 1997 Ian Fraser?
David Sedaris.
Yeah, David Sedaris, of course. Another one who's, I don't know, appropriate gay man. You know, gay man for
Mhm.
the wider audience. I remember in high school, my sophomore year, like English teacher was like, "Oh, you're gonna be just like David Sedaris,"
Oh my
because I had like
God.
put an
Yeah,
interest in writing and like the stuff
Mhm.
I'd write would be funny. And I can't dunk on Miss Thing. You know, she had very short hair and she was very much stereotypical high school English teacher, and
Slay.
she was really only trying to be supportive.
Right.
But even as a sophomore with like very rudimentary knowledge of like writing, I was like, okay, queen.
Should I be?
I don't know. Is this a microaggression?
Right.
Like the Onion
Okay.
staff, Henry
2001.
Alford, Andy Borowitz. Okay, here, let's fast
Look at
forward
the
to like
winners
let's
are
fast
in
forward to like
yellow.
the 2010s.
Okay.
Rhoda Jansen, Steve Haley, David Rakoff.
I don't know any of
I feel like
these
Mike
people.
Birbiglia is Shalom Oslander, Liza Donnelly.
Oh, I read
Julie
this,
Schumacher.
and I read that book. That I literally have it. That is a fantastic book. It's Julie Schumacher, Dear Committee Members. That is like approaching what I would aspire to be like, sort of the feminine, like palatable fiction humorist.
Oh,
like
Priest
she's
Daddy
like
was a winner.
Okay, Slay.
Did you ever read Priest Daddy? I remember it
No.
was on my list in 2018. Sloane Crosley, that sounds familiar. Oh, I was told there'd be cake. Oh, is she one of those? Remember how weird it was in like 2015? This like is a completely separate tangent. This like cavalry of like fat woman essayists like popped out of nowhere. It was like Roxane Gay. Isn't Sloane Crosley one of them? And then there was the other one that Shrill was based off of.
I don't
It was-
know.
There's a lot of like fat women also writing like humorous essays
Yeah.
in the mid 2010s. And I
I
don't know, I
totally
feel like
believe
this just
you.
like goes with my point where it kind of has to be like idpol pilled, like SJW sort of think piece appropriate humor. Anything that sort of
Right.
ruffles feathers is not really ever considered
and
to
I
be
think
like
it's more like it's sort of like overly obvious kind of fiction, like or stories and humor. Like I don't know, I find that it's like kind of surface level because of that. Like in that sense, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Like yeah, it's like palatable because it doesn't necessarily go that deep. So it's like a sort of surface treatment that people are applying to their essays to sort of like add depth when it's like, but I want to dig into something like a little more complex here. Like I don't want the surface treatment of
and then
like,
it'll be like
identity
more
politics.
funny in
Right.
that way, you
Yeah.
know, like the material will hit harder.
For example, and I think a good example of like the opposite of this would potentially be Jeanette McCurdy's "I Wish My Mom Was Dead,"
I didn't read
right? Or "I
it.
Wish My Mom Died," because it's like it's not like looking to sort of millennial like find like your goodness out of all this. Like it is, but like she's very much like, yeah, I wish my mom, you know, like it's
Yeah.
it like it works
trying to-
against
and
your
I'm trying to think,
expectations.
is there anyone that's like working that like is working, sorry, and like getting published that's like a funny writer, but like not like doing this.
Oh,
like in
Tessa
terms.
Moshfegh, probably.
Yeah. I mean,
is probably the only one I can think of.
yeah. I mean, like off the top of my
Off
head,
the
I
top
would
of my
say
head.
so too. I mean, like I don't know what have I read in the past. Like I always try to pick up books like that, but like I don't know. And just like looking at that list of like those award winners, like I don't know like any of those people. I certainly haven't read any of them. So it's like, why does this like aspect of the publishing industry, why does this like
Right.
exactly this genre still exist when like, is anybody reading this? Like,
I think
is
it
this
actually is immensely
like,
popular, which is probably, but like I don't really understand.
I don't know anybody who reads these people. Maybe like moms.
Maybe. I feel like it's a real
There
like
probably
single
is.
guy in your like 20s, 30s vibe.
Yeah,
to
there
read these.
probably is like a whole, you know, population, a whole
It's like
large
Chuck's
swath
fans,
of people.
for
Yeah.
example. Like what he does is a little bit different. But like still, I mean, people are like die hard. I mean, he's like sells so many fucking books. People love it. Like people
And I
want
guess like
something
David
a little light
Foster
sometimes.
Wallace types would also really be into this kind
There's a
of
little
writing
bit
as
of
well.
crossover, although it's like kind of strange because like at the same time too, David Foster Wallace is like does not conform to these, like you can't really box it into like a nice, you can't wrap it up in a nice sort of bow, right? These kinds of like funny stories which turn out to sort of come to a place of closure that is very much not David Foster Wallace's thing. So your point is like, so I mean, totally stands. It's like a sort of like weird bubble of literature that is sort of like disconnected from.
Yeah, it's like completely its own.
It's just
like,
doing the same
weird
thing
little
over and over
thing.
again,
Yeah.
and not like making it bigger or like doing something
It's just the
different
kind
with
of
it.
thing that like, you know, it ends up on like readers' favorites lists, or like
Exactly.
you know, and it's just like, but beyond that, it's like I don't know,
Right.
like,
And maybe that is because you and I are just so hard to please and like a
yeah,
little
and perhaps we're
discerning
bitter
with our
and angry that we are
taste.
not being published and we're not
I mean,
this
totally.
successful. And I guess, you know, more power to Simon Rich. If I had the resources, I would use them the exact same way. The other thing that's interesting
Absolutely.
is his brother is also a novelist, and of course, his brother is also like so decorated. He worked as like
Oh, yep.
the editor of the Paris Review.
Oh, okay.
Worked at the New York Review of Books. Wait, I want to see what he looks like because
Okay, I also feel kind of bad now for our guy.
For Simon Rich?
For Simon Rich.
No,
Because,
it seems like Simon's the more successful one.
Oh, really?
Oh, they are both strange looking. His brother is stranger looking than Simon, but oddly enough,
to me,
I would have sex with his brother, and I would not have sex with his brother. Simon.
He's got a kind of tortured look to him.
Yeah, I feel like
I actually think he's hot.
I feel like saying like him and Simon and his brother are like strange looking is like an anti-Semitic microaggression on my part because they have very Jewy looks. But
I'm into it.
But it's beyond the fact that they do look very Jewish. They also are both a little bit strange looking.
It's
like
not
they
that.
kind of look.
It's
they look like ageless kind of woodland creatures.
Right.
They kind of have like that like character actor who plays elves.
They look like they could be turned into animated characters pretty easily, like in terms of like
Keebler elf. Both of them have that
vibes.
Keebler elf
I think
look.
they're small.
That would be such a great
short
duo Halloween costume that they should think about doing, the Keebler elves.
That'd be cute. You know who he reminds me of? I think his brother is sexy, actually. I'm like very into his brother, Nathaniel Rich. He reminds me of a young John Cusack. Like like they look kind of different, but like I'm kind of into it.
Which brother do you think has the bigger penis?
I don't know. I get the sense that I feel like they're both kind of confident. I feel like they probably are, you know, both pretty well endowed.
Do Jewish guys usually have big cocks?
I've really not noticed any correlation.
I know. I mean, wait, let's see.
I mean, it's really hard to tell. I mean, tall people don't have big cocks necessarily either.
Average penis size of Jewish man. Neither patient age nor size of the flaccid penis accurately predicted erectile length.
Oh.
What?
Okay.
Jewish Caucasian males was 5.5 inches, which is the average. Is there a stereotype about Jewish penis size? I'm talking with a Jewish guy and I'm curious. Of course, this is the Ask.
Is this a Quora or something?
No, this is the Ask Gay Bros subreddit.
Oh my god.
Me and my sisters, we all have brainworms. He's probably cut. Yes, that is the thing. All Jewish guys are circumcised, which
That's
big
part
up,
of the deal.
big ups to the Jewish community. Every man should be circumcised. I'm leaving it at that. It's not a discussion. We're closing the topic. I will not be engaged further.
I can't speak to that.
So I guess, I mean, both of them obviously him and his brother have like long-term, like probably like lovely wives who are very, probably pensive and have like a whole world of their own emotions and probably, are great mothers and are really like, sensitive, great women. But I mean, I would have sex with both of them.
I mean, they're hot. Yeah.
I don't think either of them have sex with men.
Yeah, I'm looking at Wikipedia. It doesn't seem.
I mean, it's the kind of thing that like.
It doesn't seem like they have sex with men.
Neither of them would be outwardly homo, although these kinds of like Jewish intellectual types are always a little bit, They always got a little queen in them, but I think that's just like a Jewish like. Every time I say Jew, I'm like stopping myself. It's like my brain is trying to like hard block me from proceeding and saying anything. It's like, and I'm not even intending on saying anything like outwardly offensive, but I just have this like knee jerk reaction, like stop. Like my brain is saying, don't. So like I'm getting very flustered right now. So I think I'm just gonna like stop that train of thought. I guess their dad is this like well-known like liberal. Frank
Rich Jr.
And again, I don't know.
He's also he produced stuff for HBO. He was in on Succession. Did you ever watch Succession?
No. Oh, he was? I thought he was just an essayist and like nonfiction writer. Oh,
having joined the show at its outset and of the HBO drama Succession. So
these, oh my god, like literally, and this is
what
I said. This is what I said when I was reading the interview, because every week, as you know, if you listen to this podcast, every week, the New Yorker then does an interview with the person who wrote the story about their story, and Simon Rich gave poor Deborah Treisman like 5 minutes of his time,
which is incredible.
Whereas all these other interviews are, I would say, not super long, but they're very thorough. They really do break down kind of everything that the author was working through in this story. Simon Rich said, Deborah Treisman, I come from like literally like noble blood of the publishing industry. You will get 5 minutes of my time and I will spend it cracking jokes at your expense.
And you know what?
And you will publish this. And she did.
Exactly.
She absolutely, Deborah Treisman said, you're right, sir. Absolutely. Anything you want.
But he, what he did that I really appreciated was that he didn't try to explain the story in this interview. Like, of course, he gave her,
he gave her a
3
first
answers,
answer,
which is great. But he didn't have to. He didn't explain the plot. I mean, or like be like, oh, this is symbolic in XYZ way.
It
just
sort
of like described the premise and like then was like, peace out.
I'm like looking at pictures of him, like more pictures, especially pictures of him when he was young. He looks like if Grimes like decided to transition, like if Grimes decided to have an FTM moment.
Oh my god.
And it's really making me giggle looking at he looks like a trans man. He has trans male face. Of course, here's a picture of John Mulaney reading his book. And it's like, would I pick up the short story collection? No. And frankly, that's no fucking skin off Simon Rich's back. He doesn't need me to pick up his story collection.
No,
apparently,
he's doing just fine.
All the right people are reading his hilarious, very cerebral, just brilliant comedy. And I'm just a fucking, genteel loser who should shoot himself in the face. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I feel the same way. He's where we will never be. So, like, okay.
But again, props to him and his brother for
Absolutely.
or maybe, and I don't know, do you think this was kind of the design of his parents who both were big figures in the publishing? Do you think they were pushed into writing and like maybe secretly both of them want to be like
maybe they hate it.
They want to be blue collar public workers.
Maybe he dreams of being a barista. I could see it. I mean, that would be fucking crazy to be in a family of writers. I mean, like, at least
these
the one thing that we have is
like
that, like, we are, like, unique in our families for being writers, and so we get to, like, hide behind that. But imagine if everyone in your family was a writer. Like, that would be awful.
His wife, sorry to, like, completely just ignore everything. I was listening.
That's okay.
His wife is such a Jewish American princess. It's incredible.
Slay.
She is serving Patty Stanger, but a blonde. And
Slay.
in this picture, she's in her, bandage dress,
Slay. Absolutely slay.
her Herve Leger bandage dress with her big statement necklace and her big blonde hair.
Oh my God, slay.
It's so funny because this
Wait,
is
I can't
not at
find the
all.
picture.
This is not at all the kind of woman
Oh my
I
God,
would assume
slay.
him to be married to.
Wait, holy shit.
So
slay.
it's not like she's like hot or anything. She's just very much an archetype
she's
of like.
serving.
Yeah, she is serving, but she's very much an archetype that I wouldn't think would be like attracted to like a dweeby little comedy writer like
I
him.
can kind of see it. I mean, I
kind of do love that for her.
Yeah, I love that.
And
for
I'm
her.
sure that this story is definitely about his own marriage. He's definitely giving me vibes of a man who writes all of his stories about his own life.
She's slay. I really love her.
As we all do. I mean, I don't know.
Wait, she's also a writer?
She is. Wait, who is she?
Oh my God, she is.
What's her name? Kathleen Hale.
Yeah.
What does she do?
She's a writer.
But what does she write?
Crime writer.
Crime?
Her work has been featured in Vanity Fair along other.
Wait, she kind of looks like Natasha Bedingfield in all these pictures.
She's really slay.
Wait, is she British? Why is she giving? She's got.
No, she definitely is British. Yeah. Oh, totally. I think so.
Wait, there's no information about. No, she's from Wisconsin. Oh, she's a Wisconsinite.
I mean, she's so slay. I'm obsessed. I don't know
Wait,
why.
Oh my God, I Google. Okay. God, there's so many rabbit holes. We could do, like the cat person one leads us down so many holes. Look at that. So Googling Kathleen Hale, The Guardian. Am I being catfished? An author confronts her #1 online critic. When a bad review of her first novel appeared online, Kathleen Hale was warned not to respond, but she soon found herself wading in.
Oh
so
my
got
God.
A whole thing?
Wait, incredible.
Wait, I'm so sorry that I kind of disparaged her and called her a Jewish American princess. Not that there's anything wrong with being a Jewish American princess. I think it's a very cunty
it's
archetype.
Aspirational.
Yes, I think it's an incredible American archetype. And if there's anything I love all of the American cultural archetypes that people can be. I think they're lovely. And the more you embody them, the cuntier you are, whatever identity you are in.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Wait,
I'm really firing on all cylinders right now. But
we'll go back to her thing about the book.
She doesn't have a Wikipedia page. I really think we could kind of con our way into becoming like friends with her.
We should try.
She's from Wisconsin. I should be like,
we should read her book. Oh, her book called Kathleen Hale is a Crazy Stalker. Okay, maybe that's sickening.
She's the one with the pussy in this relationship.
Maybe we should look her up.
The one with the pussy in this relationship.
Yeah, we should let's try and get our hands on a copy.
Good for her. She's like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna marry this little dweeb. That's probably exactly her type. Now getting to know her a little bit more.
Right, I'm sure he's very lovely.
He's gonna make a lot.
He's taller than
SNL. Him. Yeah, exactly. Taller than him. He's got these rich parents.
Mm-hmm.
He is, publishing industry royalty and heir to a publishing throne. He can do all that, make us money writing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to serve cunt.
Exactly.
I will serve cunt.
Oh my God.
And no one will read what I write, but it doesn't matter because no one has to because my husband makes so much money.
Wait, that's so slay.
Oh my God. I think we should leave a very disparaging review of one of her books to get her attention.
Maybe she'll respond and be like, sorry, we read your article. We're just trying to get your attention. That'd be great. Wait, yeah. Okay, slay.
No, I feel actually like
she's got to be funny if she's married to him. Like, if you think about it. So I feel like she's probably kind of slay. Grove Press. 6 essays. Okay.
Oh, sorry, I almost got confused. There's another Kathleen Hale who's like British, but she like was born in 1898, and I was like,
wait, there's a TikTok called The Author That Stalked a Blogger. There's so much to unpack with this one on Book Talk.
Oh, we are going to have to read this book.
We will definitely have to read this.
Oh my God, and it has a
2.1
out of 5 on Goodreads. Yeah, I was just gonna say we're gonna end.
Wow.
Hard and fast rule about books. The lower the rating on Goodreads is, the better the book is.
That's actually
Never
true.
trust anybody's judgment on Goodreads. It is always the inverse. If a book has, I think the best books have about 2 to 2.5 to 3 stars on Goodreads.
Right.
And this has 2.1. this is right up our
We
alley. I
have
have
to
to
look
read
this
this.
up.
I'm going to find an illegal
Find
copy of this. I'm going to find
Yeah.
a PDF of this and download it. Maybe I'll go to the
I
library
love
and
that
get
the
it.
rabbit hole always takes us somewhere
I
really
doubt
good.
my library will stock this because it seems as if nobody reads this woman's work, and this became trendy because of the, I mean, in my opinion, very brilliant premise.
Right. Absolutely brilliant.
So I will say, okay,
Self-referential.
to close off this episode, Simon, sure, you wrote a great story. I would give it 4 out of 5 stars. I would put this in my 4 out of 5 star tier.
Yeah, me too.
But more importantly, thank you for introducing us to your lovely wife,
Your lovely
Simon.
wife. So great
Thank
to meet
you
her.
for introducing
Maybe we
us.
can come over for book club.
Yes, please have us over. Pass along a rating to your father and your mother if she's
Right.
still in the industry.
Slay.
You know, but more than anything, we would love to meet your incredible cunty wife.
Gorgeous. Can't wait.
Okay.
Okay.
Goodbye,
Slay.
everyone. We'll see you next week. Mwah.